Good morning, my students. Good morning, friends. Today is April 16th, and it's Thursday, the last day of lessons for this week. Thank you for coming back and joining me today. This morning, as I start, my story is called The Beauty Inside. Have you heard of the word stalactite, stalagmite? One grows up and one grows down. But which one is which? Here's a trick. There's a C in stalactite, which grows from the ceiling. Stalactites and stalagmites are formations that grow inside limestone caves. You know how we've been studying landforms. We started yesterday with the deserts. When water flows down through caves, it dissolves calcite, a part of the limestone, and it carries it through the cracks in the ceilings. The water drips down and leaves behind tiny bits of calcite. And over years of dripping, the calcite collects on the ceiling, and a stalactite slowly forms, looking like a rocky icicle. As water drips down the stalactite to the cave floor, more calcite collects on the floor. This slowly forms into a stalagmite. That's why two formations these two are usually found together. Sometimes they even grow together in one single column. These hidden formations can be stunning in beauty, and I have to wonder how many of them go unseen in undiscovered caves. Tucked inside the earth, these stunning works of creation are made slowly over many years. Did you know that just like that's a beautiful creation, you are a beautiful creation as well? Day by day, every day, moment by moment, week by week, month by month, and year by year, you are growing into the person that you are to be. You are special. And I want you to know that Miss Gaylord misses you, and I remember that about you. And I hope that you are ready to begin today, okay? We're going to start this morning with our Riggs spelling test. If you have your piece of paper and pencil handy, Miss Gaylord is going to get ready to call out the words on the list today. Remember, we got 6 words on Monday, 6 words on Tuesday, and 6 words on Wednesday. So today, we will call out the words, okay? So as you finish today, we'll do our 2 sentences in dictation, and then you can check your words after the lesson today to see if you got them right, okay? And then you can write them 3 times each. Now remember, since it's Thursday, you've gotten all the words. Now you need to go to the form in Google Forms and type out all 18 words. And you were to write 3 sentences with the first 6 words, 3 with the second 6 words, and 3 with the last 6 words, okay? So that'll be a total of 9 sentences that you wrote, and then you listed all 18 words. Don't forget to mark turn in so you can get credit in your language, okay? All right. Don't forget, if you need to pause the video while Miss Gaylord is calling out the words, if it's going too fast, you can click pause and then write the word and then hit play again, okay? Number 1, grief. Grief. Number 2, guilty. Guilty. Number 3, fluffy. Fluffy. Number 4, swell. Swell. Number 5, account. Account. Number 6, frost. Frost. Number 7, study. Study. Number 8, district. District. Number 9, eagle. Eagle. Number 10, scalp. Scalp. Number 11, crush. Crush. Number 12, morning. Morning. Not the kind of morning when the sun comes up, but if you are in mourning, you are in sadness. Mourning. Number 13, use. Use. Number 14, usage. Usage. Number 15, using. Using. Number 16, usable. Usable. Number 17, deaf. Deaf. Number 18, stood. Stood. Okay, so you want to check over each word. You want to check that you dotted all I's, that you crossed all T's. Did any words this week have a capital letter? No, very good. All right, it is now time to turn your paper over and to write the dictation sentences, okay? Can you tell us what are the 4 kinds of sentences? Okay, what kind of sentence is a statement? Okay, declarative, good. A declarative sentence ends in a period. Sometimes we call that a telling sentence. Okay, what kind of sentence would a question sentence be? Interrogative, very good. An interrogative sentence or a question sentence ends in a question mark. Very good, okay? What is a sentence that tells you what to do? What kind of sentence tells you what to do? A command. Very good. We call that an imperative sentence, a command, okay? And what kind of sentence shows strong and sudden feeling? An exclamatory sentence. Very good. All right, so you've had time to turn your paper over. Let's go ahead and write sentence number 1. You can repeat after me as I read the sentence. Okay, number 1. Did you see the eagle as it stood on the branch? Did you see the eagle as it stood on the branch? Did you see the eagle as it stood on the branch? Did you see the eagle as it stood on the branch? Now make sure you are putting the correct end mark at the end of the sentence, okay? What kind of sentence was it? So it needs a. Very good. Number 2. We can use the fluffy pillow on my bed. We can use the fluffy pillow on my bed. We can use the fluffy pillow on my bed. One more time. We can use the fluffy pillow on my bed. Check your sentences to make sure that you have used all the correct end marks. Did you capitalize the first word? Sentence number 2 is what type? What's the name of a telling sentence? Declarative. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's look at some parts of speech from this week. Can you remember any words that we covered that were nouns? Okay, can you remember some person, place, thing, or idea? Okay, can you give me one? Okay, death. Very good. Death was a noun. Okay, can you remember another noun? Eagle. Nice. Eagle was a noun. Okay, another one. Scalp. Scalp. Okay, how about another one? Frost. Okay, some of these words can be two parts of speech. These can be nouns. Okay, very good. Okay, can you remember some of our words this week that were verbs? Verbs. Okay, use. Very good. What are some forms of use that were verbs? Using. Using. Okay, another one. Crush. Very good. Crush. Okay. Stood. Stood. Okay. Another one. Study. Okay. These are some actions. Now, there may be a few more that were two parts of speech. These were some actions that we used here, these verbs. Okay. Can you remember any describing words that were adjectives? Adjectives describe nouns or pronouns. Can you remember any adjectives? Usable. Good. Usable could describe a noun. Okay. How about the fluffy clouds? Fluffy could be an adjective. How about one more? Guilty. Very good. Guilty. Now, there were some more, but these were the ones that we chose to look at today. Okay. Now, remember, as you write your sentences, that you are to try to use a variety of words. We want to try to use words that make our sentences interesting. And we want the reader to be able to understand our words, but also not be boring. Okay. So we want to use sentences when we write our sentences that are interesting to the reader. We try to make a variety of sentences, whether it be a telling sentence, which is what? Declarative. An asking sentence, which is interrogative. A command, which actually is called imperative, or a strong, sudden feeling sentence, which is called exclamatory. Very good. Now, yesterday I promised I would bring the boys something for their treat today. You get 5 stars. You get a skateboard today, guys. You get 1 skateboard. We're going to try to get all 5. Okay, you did a great job with Riggs. Very good. If you need to pause and grab your materials, you can do so. We're going to start today with a little bit of math. I hope you've been reviewing your money and time, your facts, you're adding, subtracting. I hope that you are printing out or either writing them down on paper. Have somebody, that's the best thing you can do each day is write down your facts. You can get, there's many websites Miss Gaylord told you about you can go to, and you can find some math facts /math. You can go to Cool Math Games. You can go to Prodigy, many other math games. What do you notice about, let's talk about comparing and contrasting. What do you notice about this shape that's different from this shape? What do you notice about these two shapes? Okay, this one, this green one is flat. Flat, okay? It does have 3 sides. This one it's not flat. It's got dimension to it. We call these 3D, or we can also call this shape not a triangle, but a pyramid. Very good, okay? Pyramid. What do you notice about this shape that's different than this shape? Okay, this is the shape, right? It's a Square. Square also has straight sides. What's a four-sided figure called? A quadrilateral. Very good. This is actually a cube. It's three-dimensional. Okay, this cube has different, what we call faces. Okay, see if you can count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then underneath is 5, on top is 6. They also have points where they come together. Do you remember what those were called? They are angles, but they're called vertices. You see, this cube is different from a flat square. Okay? Look at this shape. What shape is this? This is a rectangle. It's also a four-sided figure, and it's called a quadrilateral. How is this shape different from this shape? This shape is flat, right? It has four sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. It also has four angles. Okay. This shape has four sides. Do you see how this two sides are the same length? This one and this one. But this side and this side are two different lengths. Where they come together make angles, and these are also called your vertices. Do you see how this shape also has what we call faces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This one also has 6 different faces. Okay, very good. This is a 3D shape. Okay, do you know what we call this 3D shape? Looks like a cup, right? Cylinder. Can you say cylinder? Cylinder, okay? You see this shape. This looks like what? Like an ice cream cone, right? Okay. See this one? This is a cone-shaped figure. Okay. There's no straight sides here. It does have a face, though. Okay, on the bottom. Just thought I'd show you those and show you the difference of some of the things we've been studying. Do you remember that we've been studying fractions? And we've been taking pieces of, and we have been dividing them up into parts. What do we call parts of a whole? Parts of a whole, okay, a fraction. This is a rectangle. I'm going to look at the two different ways that I can divide this rectangle. Let's say I want to divide it up into 2 parts. I could divide it this way with a vertical line. Okay. I could divide it this way with a horizontal line. Is there another way I could divide this rectangle shape? Did we learn that yesterday? See if my pen will work. How about that? Okay, that's not perfectly straight, but you get the point. There are several ways to divide a rectangle in half or a square in half. These are called halves because it makes 2 parts. 1 part, 2 parts, put them together, you have a whole. 1 part, 2 parts, and you have a whole. Okay, how do we write that? We write a fraction bar, 1 on top, 2 on the bottom. Okay, 1/2. Let's take the square. How do we divide the square into 2 parts? Okay, you could do it this way. You could do it this way. And what's the other way? Diagonal. Remember the sandwich talked about? I cut my sandwiches this way. And as a child, I always ate them this way. Okay. That's also 1/2. 1 out of 2 parts. So if you have 1/2 plus another 1/2, then you would have a whole, 1 whole. Okay, so we also talked about dividing things into different parts. Can you remember how we divided this rectangle into thirds? Okay, how many parts would the rectangle have if you divided it into thirds? 1, 2, and 3. 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. This is called thirds. Now look at that same shape. Which one has bigger pieces? If you divided it 3 ways, or if you divided it 2 ways. Let's mark on our rectangle to show you. Okay? This is if I divide my rectangle 2 ways. 1/2, 1/2 equals 1 whole. If I divide it into thirds, look at the size of the piece. Which one is bigger? 1/2 is bigger than 1/3. You see this? This is 1/2, and this red piece is 1/3. 1/2 is bigger than 1/3. Very good. Okay, today let's look in our book and let's get ready. If you have your book, and I hope you've printed out your pages. Are you remembering to do your homework each day? Monday through Thursday, there's a homework in the Google Classroom that you need to complete. Make sure that you are doing that, okay? Today we're going to look at page 269, and we have pizzas to look at. I'd love a pizza. Right now, I would love to have a pizza. Would you? Miss Gaylord's getting tired of making her own food at home, too. She's been cooking and cooking and cooking. What a nice surprise would be to order a pizza. Okay, so let's say you can get a pizza, and you can get the traditional circle pizza. Some pizza places have a rectangle pizza. They're in the shape of a rectangle, or you can get a square pizza. The difference between the rectangle and the square pizza is that the square pizza, all the sides are the same length, okay? So these are my 3 shapes of pizzas that I can order. All right, Shara and her mom make these 3 pizzas for a party. Let's look at those 3 parts to this question. Shara will have 10 people at the party. Draw how she could cut each pizza so that every person gets 1 piece of pizza. Okay, so I need to look at how many people are coming to the party. 10, okay? I need to look at how many pieces I should cut out of each pizza. Okay, so let's just start by looking at one way. Okay, let's say I cut them in half, each of them in half. Okay, how many pieces would I now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that going to be enough to serve 10 people? It's not. I'm lacking 4 pieces. Okay, so that's not going to work. So let's erase these. Okay, now let's divide each pizza into 4 pieces. Okay, let's try. This pizza has 4. This rectangle has 4. And the square has 4. Okay, let's count. 4, 8, 12. Is that the right? That will serve 10 people, but you're going to have 2 left over. We want to divide and give each person the biggest piece possible. And we need to make 10 pieces. So let's erase part. Okay, let's erase the rectangle and the square. Okay, let's see. What if I divide these two into 3 pieces and make what we call thirds? 1, 2, 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3 pieces. Let's count. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Will that work? Yes, very good. Okay, so this is how I could divide. You can draw this on your paper or do it on paper by yourself. 4, 3, and 3. Okay, how much is 4 and 3? 7. And how much is 7 and 3? 10. Very good. Okay, now you may have some other ideas. That's one way. That's one possible answer. Okay, let's look now at part B. Shara asked more people to come to the party, and now they're going to be 12 people. This time, also use the same shape pizzas and draw the pizzas into shapes where all 12 people can get 1 piece. Now, that's a little easier than 10. Why is that? Because 12 can be divided into 3. You can have 3 or 4 people eat from a pizza and make 12. Let's see what I mean, okay? All right, so let's leave this one as 4 people can eat this pizza. Now we're on part B. Let's erase the 3, and since we said 4, 12 is a multiple of 4. Let's count by 4s. 4, 8, 12. 4, okay, is what we call a factor of 12. 4, and then we could divide this one into 4ths. And we could divide this one into 4ths. And let's count the pieces here. 4, 8, 12. Okay, what if we decided to divide it into thirds? Let's see if that would have worked. Okay, can I take my circular pizza and divide it into thirds? How many people would be able to eat the circle pizza if I divide it into thirds? 3. Okay, so I've got 3 people can eat here. And then if I divided this one into 3, 6 people could eat here. And if I divided into this one, 9 people. But how many people do I have to eat? 12. So is that going to be the best way? No. Why? Because there's not enough pieces of pizza. So let's look back at part B. So the best way would be to divide this one into 4 pieces. Divide this one into 4 pieces. And divide the square into 4 pieces. Now how many people can eat? 4, 8, 12. That was part B. Very good. Now, if you look at these pizzas, they're all different shapes. Part C says, do you think each person gets an equal amount of pizza? Would you say these are the exact same number of bites it would take you to eat this one, or this one? What do you think? No. Why not? They are different shapes. The circle is different than the rectangle. The rectangle is different than the square. They are different shapes. So no, each person will not get an equal amount of pizza because, make sure you write that out, the pizzas are different shapes. Okay? So the whole is not the same. This one's bigger than this one, okay? And these two are not exactly the same. Very good. Okay. So these were just some ways that you can divide shapes into fractional parts. Okay. Again, what does the word fraction mean? Part of a whole. Okay. Part of a whole. If you have part of something, you don't have the whole. Let's remind ourselves again. Okay. This would be a square. Okay. How many of these would fit into the square? 2. 2. So the fraction is 1/2, okay, plus another half equals what? 1 whole. 1 whole, okay? If you have the same square with this shape, is this 1/2 of the square? No. How much is it? This one is 1/3 because you can divide this square into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Which one is bigger? A half or a third? 1/2 is bigger. If you have a pie you're eating, you'd rather have a half or a third. A half of the pie is bigger, right? Okay. Look at the same shape this time, and I want you to look at this size. Okay. How can you tell how much this pink shape is? 1/4. It takes 1, 2, 3, and this white one's going to represent the 4th. It takes 4 to fill up the square. These are called fourths. 1/4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now, which one is bigger? 1/4 or 1/3? 1/3 is bigger. It only took 3 of these to fill up the square. Which one is bigger? 1/2 or 1/4? 1/2 is bigger. You see? Very good. Okay, so practice that, and also do not forget to do the homework in the Google Classroom so you can get credit. You should have now 4 days. After today, when you do it, you should have 4 assignments that you turned in. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, very good. All right, let's move on. You have just received your next skateboard. Let's see what you got. Very good. You got a second skateboard today. Now, if you have the need to get some water or take a quick break, go ahead and press pause on the video. This would be the time for you to do that, okay? All right. If you can find your reading materials now, if you have printed out your story for today, that's awesome. Do you know that this story today is what we call a folk tale? What does Miss Gaylord mean by a folk tale? Okay. A folk tale was handed down orally. What does she mean by orally? Okay, by word of mouth before it was written down, probably a long time ago or just recently. A long time ago, and it came from the country of China. Okay, this story is based on a Chinese folk tale, and it's called Gudong is Coming. Now, before we look at this story, look at the pictures. Aren't they beautifully? This lesson, then this unit has been talking about how pictures can help put ideas together to make the story better and also form an illustration for you. These pictures are beautiful. And it shows you that this story is probably going to be about what? Animals. Animals, okay? I see some things that that look like it may be in a different setting. What would you think the setting is? Okay, where the story took place. Does it look like it takes place in a city, a very busy, crowded city? No, it doesn't. It looks like it may take place where there is a place for animals to roam. Looks like some trees, maybe some grasses. Does not look like a busy city. Can you tell this story is going to be made up, or do you think it's going to be what we call nonfiction, which is going to be something that could really happen? Well, we're not sure, but we know that it says fantasy. What does the word fantasy mean to you? Fantasy. Okay. A made up story. So would that be fiction or nonfiction? That would be fiction. Very good. Okay. So there's a couple of words to know as you look at, if you have come across a word as you're reading that you're not sure of, circle that and let's look at that together. Here's some words you may not know. Papaya. Can you say papaya? Okay. When you look at the word papaya, we'll talk about it when we get to it. Dared, like she dared me to do something. And trembled. Trembled. Now, we had that word in our book from Charlotte's Web yesterday. You probably know what that means. We'll look at those when we come to it. Based on the title and the pictures, can you go ahead and what we call predict what you think the story might be about? Okay, animals, you say? Okay, very good. Okay, now let's look at the beginning. Press pause on the video if you have not read the story so that you can read it by yourself, okay? And then come back and join me. Okay, you're ready now. Gudong is coming. Rabbit White nibbled grass by the pond where a tall papaya tree stood. Can you tell what the meaning of papaya is? Okay, it's a type of tree. How about a fruit tree? Suddenly, Rabbit White heard Gudong. He jumped so high his ears brushed with the branches of the papaya tree. A monster is coming, Rabbit White shouted, hopping away as fast as he could. He dared not even look back. A Gudong is coming, he said. He jumped over brooks and logs. He even bounced over Monkey, who was eating a banana on a fallen log. What's your hurry? Who is Gudong? Monkey said as Monkey jumped from the log and dashed after Rabbit White. Rabbit White said, a monster, big and scary. We must call all of our friends. Gudong is coming, they shouted. Gudong is coming as they ran. And soon they bumped into Fox. What's your hurry? Said Fox. Who is Gudong? The fox asked. I'm sure he's a monster with 3 big red eyes, Rabbit White said. With the biggest red eye in his forehead. Right there, Monkey added. Fox trembled when he pictured the fearsome Gudong. Can you tell what it means to tremble there? Okay. He's scared. He's shaking. Paragraph 11, stay with us. You'll be safe, Rabbit White promised. So Fox and Monkey dashed after Rabbit White. Gudong is coming, they shouted. Gudong is coming. Before long, Spotted Deer, Bear, and Tiger had joined them. Gudong is coming, they all shouted together. And Lion walked slowly through the deep grass. Who is Gudong? He asked. He's a monster, said Rabbit White. He is huge, said Bear. He will eat us all, cried Tiger. He has 3 big red eyes, Monkey chattered. Who has seen Gudong? Lion asked, smiling. The animals all looked at Rabbit White, and he said, I heard him by the pond. Let's find out who this Gudong is, said Lion. So Rabbit White led Monkey, Fox, Spotted Deer, Bear, Tiger, and Lion back to the pond. But no one was there. Only a ripe papaya floated on the water. What do you think that is? A piece of fruit. I know I heard Gudong. And the tears ran down Rabbit White's face. And just then, another ripe papaya fell into the pond. Gudong, they heard. Oh, Rabbit White screamed, and then he started laughing. It's only the papaya, he cried out with joy. Lion picked up a papaya and broke it open, and then they all enjoyed a papaya lunch at the edge of the pond. Okay, let's look at the story. At the beginning of the story, where is Rabbit? Flip back to your page. Where is Rabbit? Paragraph 1. It says, Rabbit White is by the pond where a tall papaya stood. Can you tell what he's doing? It says, Rabbit White nibbled grass. Okay, if you had to say what a papaya was, can you tell me from reading the story? Where does it come from? It grows on a tree. Good, okay. What do you think it looks like? Can you tell from the pictures in the story? Okay. It almost looks like a pear, somewhat of a pear or a lemon, okay? But it must have some kind of weight to it if it can fall off the tree, it says. Now, why do you think in the story that Rabbit thinks that a monster is coming? He heard a noise. He hears the sound, and the sound said to him, Gudong, Gudong. What do all of the animals in the story, except for the lion, what do they do? They all believe Rabbit, right? When he says that a monster is coming. Look at the 3rd page. What does the lion want to know about the monster? Can you tell? He says, let's find out who this Gudong is. He wants to know who the monster is. And then Lion takes them back where? Where he heard the noise. What happens at the end of the story? You know, every story has a beginning, middle, and end. What happens at the end of the story? They realize that what? That there's no Gudong monster. It was just a papaya. Papaya, very good. Are you ready to answer the questions? Now, there's a document in your Google Classroom that you're going to need to type the answer. Ms. Gaylor did not type all of the answers. You have to type the answer that you think is best. So you don't just put B, C, A, or whatever. You type the sentence, okay? It says on page 360, what 2 important details can you see in the picture that are not in the text? So you need to flip back to 360 and you need to see what can you tell from the picture, okay? Can you tell A, that other animals live near Rabbit White? Let's look at 360. Well, not sure about that one. That one is in the text. It says something about animals, right? Okay, the picture does not make it clear where the animals all live. B, that the story takes place in the jungle. Okay, yes, you could choose B. C, that a papaya makes the sound that scares Rabbit White. Okay, can you see that in the picture? And it doesn't say that in the text. If you look at the picture on 360, you see a papaya floating in the water and you see the words Gudong beside it. So could you have figured that out by just looking at the pictures before we read the story? Yes, so you can circle B and C, type them in your document. Can you figure out D, that monkey also hears the sound of the Gudong?
I was just wondering.
No.
Then I started.
Can you figure that a monster is hiding in the trees above Rabbit White? No, I don't see that on the picture. Okay, so be very careful when you choose your answers there. This question next has two parts. There's a part A and a part B. Now look back at the picture on 361. What does the picture on 361 show? Choose one answer. Does it show what the Gudong really looks like? No. Does it show what the animal think that Gudong looks like? I see the little blue dots and I see that's imagination. That means that's what you are thinking. And I see that there's a monster with 3 eyes. Is that what the animals are thinking? Yes, I think so. Does it show what Rabbit White saw by the pond? No. Does it show what Lion knows about the Gudong? No. So write the 2 details from the story that match what's in the picture. If you go back and look in the picture, you see this. You see some animals with this, and this means an imagination. Look what's drawn in that imagination bubble. Okay. All right. So when you see what's in that bubble, that'll help you answer the question. They want you to write 2 details from the story that match. Look at what's in that bubble. Think about that as you write your answer. Okay. And write 2 details. Okay. It tells us from the story that one of the characters says a monster with 3 big eyes. The biggest red eye is in his forehead. And it also tells us that he is huge. Think about that as you write down your answers, okay? Turn over to number 3. Which sentence best shows that Lion knows Gudong is not a monster? The lion is the one who's been thinking. Which sentence shows that the lion knows the Gudong is not really a monster? A, lion walked slowly through the deep grass. B, who has seen Gudong? Lion asked, smiling. C, let's find out who this Gudong is, said Lion. Or D, Lion picked up a papaya and broke it open. Which one shows that he really knows that he's not a monster? Who has seen the Gudong? He asked, smiling. Number 4, read this sentence from paragraph 10. Fox trembled when he pictured the fearsome Gudong. After you read the word fearsome, let's look at that word. That's a compound word. Do you remember what a compound word is? Okay. It's when 2 words are put together to make up one new word. Fearsome. If something is fearsome, what do you already know this word fear means? Okay. Fear is something you're afraid of, you're scared of. So if something is fearsome, would you say A, it's very ugly, B, it's scary, C, it's colorful, or D, it's huge. Okay? You write down the word. Now, the last part is to plan out your response. Write what you think the lesson of this story is. It says, make a list of details from the text and pictures that help teach a lesson. So I would go to a separate piece of paper and I would make myself a lesson. Okay, now remember how we make these webs sometimes to organize our ideas? What could be a lesson that you learn from the story? Think about what Rabbit White did. Okay, Rabbit White made a decision quickly, right? He thought, that's got to be a monster. So one lesson might be to take some time and act slowly, right? He runs off and he tells others very quickly that there's a monster around. There's a monster around. So one thing you might learn is, should you go tell others things that you're not sure of? Don't tell others until you're sure of something, right? Okay. Slowly act. Don't tell others until you're sure. Okay. How about don't tell others things that are not true? Did they see the three-eyed monster? Did anyone see the three-eyed monster? No. So don't tell others things that are not true. And the last thing is, don't try to scare other people, okay, when there was nothing to be afraid of. So the lessons from Gudong, I would organize my thoughts here before I planned out. This is the planning, and then you are to do the writing of the extended response. Now, you need to use details when you do the written extended response. Explain how Gudong is coming teaches a lesson. Use details from the text and pictures to support your ideas. So these are your ideas, but these are not the details from the story. When you go to write the details from the story, write down what really happened. Rabbit White heard a scary noise. He thought that it was a monster. Okay. He goes and tells the other animals. They all go and tell more animals, right? Those are details from the story. They tell others that the monster has what? 3 eyes, right? They tell others that the monster has 3 eyes, even though he really isn't there. And then it says, you can write what you learned from the story. And this is where you write your points, what you learned, the lesson that you did learn. Don't forget the learning target at the end of the paper. It says, how can using both words and pictures when you read help you better understand a story? If you just go on pictures alone, do you always get the meaning of a story? No. If you look at words and pictures, you can find the details that are in the texts. You can also find things from pictures that you may have missed in the text. Think about those as you answer your questions, okay? Very good. You did a great job with reading, and you get another skateboard. Very good. You rock. Okay, now you've gotten 3. If you need to pause and take a quick break, you can do so. Now today, part of our next lesson is in science. Do you know how we've been discussing landforms? Okay, and we're going to talk more about landforms today. Yesterday, we introduced you to landforms and some words that have to do with weather. What landform in science did we learn yesterday? We learned about the desert. Okay, I hope that you read through the PowerPoint. Miss Gaylord tried to read it with you, and you had to do a few things on the PowerPoint and turn it back in so that I know that you have completed it. And some of the things we learned about the desert were these. What kind of landform was a desert? Okay, we learned that a landform called a desert can be it can be hot. It can be dry. It can also be cold at night. Very good. Okay. Which of these words did we learn a new word? Arid. Was it hot, dry, or cold? Okay. Arid, we learned, meant dry. Okay. The desert has plants and animals that are able to live there. What do we learn? What is it called when an animal has, or a plant has this ability to survive in the environment? Do you remember? We call that word an adaptation. An adaptation. Let's see if you can look at some animals. If Miss Gaylord has some handy. Oh, I've got a few of them. Okay. All right. What is the adaptation of, let's go with the elephant. Okay, its long trunk to get water and its big ears. Very good. Okay, what is the adaptation of this giraffe? Its long neck lets it get leaves high up from trees. Do you know the adaptation of this tiger? It has spots on it to camouflage, and it can run very fast. Like the cheetah, the tiger, the jaguar. Very good. Okay. Do you know an adaptation of this? Let's go with this monkey. It has hands that it can use. Okay. It also has a tail to help it swing from places it needs to go, branch to branch. Do you know the adaptation of this cat? A cat has been given claws to be able to defend itself with, right? Do you know the adaptation of this bear? The bear is able to, what's it called when you go and you store fat and you go sleep for a long time when it's cold? It's called hibernation. Very good. Okay. Then we talked about maybe some animals like this one we just read about. What's the adaptation of the rabbit? Okay. It's got a keen sense of hearing, big ears for good hearing, and it's able to hop. Yes, it's able to hop. That's an adaptation. Okay. All animals have some type of adaptation to survive, and plants as well. Okay. An adaptation where an animal can color itself so that you can't really see it very well on a plant is called camouflage. Very good. Okay. So plants and animals all have adaptations to survive. We learned that yesterday. Now, today's lesson in science, you're supposed to watch a story called The Three Little Javelinas. Now, Miss Gaylord watched it, and it shows you some places about these little pigs, where they can live, okay, and the environment that they live in, okay, especially in this desert. Now, the assignment today was for you to watch the videos about 9 minutes, watch the video, and then you have a written assignment to type out what happened in the beginning, middle, and end, okay? Now, don't forget that you need to use good sentences. So there should be 3 parts to your paper. The form that Miss Gaylord gave you has a beginning part where you are to type in your answers, what happened in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, okay? Don't forget to press the turn in button when you do that, okay? So that Miss Giller can get your assignment and give you credit for science. Very good. Okay, so I'm not going to watch that with you today. You have to watch that on your own, but you get the next skateboard for doing a good job in doing that. Very well. Okay, so we'll continue our study on landforms later next week as well in science. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to pull out your Charlotte's Web book if you have it. Maybe you've been reading on your PDF that Miss Gaylord sent you. I hope that you've been keeping up. This week you had 2 quizzes to turn in, and then now you'll have some other activities. Yesterday we read chapter 9. Do you remember what boast Wilbur had? What did Wilbur say he could do just like Charlotte? He said he could spin a web. He did. Very good. Okay, a couple of questions from chapter 9. Was Wilbur successful at making a web just like Charlotte? Nope, he sure could not. How long did Charlotte say it could take to spin a web for her? Is it a long time, like a couple of weeks or months, or is it pretty quick? Said she could do it in a night. Very good. Okay. Do you remember the word that they introduced in last chapter that meant that you're not busy, kind of just lazy, not doing anything? A new word that we introduced was this word. Can you read that word? Sedentary, okay? Now, sedentary, it meant to be still, not be doing anything, okay? So that was a review from chapter 9, Wilbur's Boast. Today, we're going to look at chapter 10, okay? And we're going to introduce another character that we haven't really seen a whole lot from so far. If you're following along in our book, we're on chapter 10, An Explosion. See, Charlotte? And it's on page 66. Day after day, the spider waited, head down, for an idea to come to her. Do you remember what idea we're talking about? How is Charlotte going to keep Wilbur from being killed around Christmas time? Hour by hour, she sat motionless, deep in thought. Having promised Wilbur that she would save his life, she was determined to keep her promise. Now, Charlotte was naturally patient. Do you know what this word means, patient? Not a patient in the hospital, but to be patient. Okay, that means you can wait on things. She was naturally patient. She knew from experience that if she waited long enough, a fly would come to her web. And she felt sure that if she had thought long enough about Wilbur's problem, an idea would come to her mind. Finally, one morning toward the middle of July, the idea came. Why, how perfectly simple, she said to herself. The way to save Wilbur's life is to play a trick on Zuckerman. Do you remember who Zuckerman is? Fern's uncle. He owns the pig and the barn. Remember the farm? If I can fool a bug, thought Charlotte, I can surely fool a man. People are not as smart as bugs. Wilbur walked into his yard just that moment. What are you thinking about, Charlotte? He asked. I was just thinking, said Charlotte, that people are very gullible. Now, you probably haven't heard of that word, gullible, before. And Wilbur says, What does gullible mean? Easy to fool, said Charlotte. Well, that's a mercy, replied Wilbur, and he lay down in the shade of the fence and went fast asleep. The spider, however, stayed wide awake, gazing affectionately, which means lovingly, at Wilbur, and making plans for his future. Summer was half gone, and she knew she did not have much time. That morning, just as Wilbur fell asleep, Avery Arable wandered into the Zuckerman's front yard, followed by Fern. Who remembers who Avery is? Fern's brother. Good. Avery carried a live frog in his hand, and Fern had a crown of daisies in her hair, and the children ran for the kitchen. Just in time for a piece of blueberry pie, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Look at my frog, said Avery, placing the frog on the drain board and holding out his hand for pie. Take that thing out of here, said Mrs. Zuckerman. He's hot, said Fern. He's almost dead, that frog. He is not, said Avery. He lets me scratch him between the eyes. The frog jumped and landed in Mr. Zuckerman's dishpan full of soapy water. You're getting pie on you, said Fern. Can I look for eggs in the hen house, Aunt Edith? Run outdoors, both of you, and don't bother the hens. It's getting all over everything, shouted Fern. His pie is all over his front. Come on, Frog, said Avery, and he scooped up his frog. The frog kicked, splashing soapy water onto the blueberry pie. Another crisis, groaned Fern. What do you think Fern meant by another crisis? With Avery, her brother, things were always bound to happen like that. The children ran into the barn. Let's swing on the swing, said Avery. Mr. Zuckerman had the best swing in the county. It was a single long piece of heavy rope tied to the beam over the north doorway. At the bottom end of the rope was a fat knot you could sit on. It was arranged so that you could swing without being pushed. You just climbed up the ladder into the hayloft. Then, holding the rope, you stood at the edge and looked down and were scared and dizzy. And then you straddled, which means sat on the knot, so that it acted as a seat. And then you got up all your nerve, you took a big breath, and you jumped. For a second, you seemed to be falling to the barn floor, far below, but then suddenly the rope would begin to catch you, and you would sail through the barn door, going a mile a minute, with the wind whistling in your eyes and ears and hair. And then you would zoom upward toward the sky and look up at the clouds, and the rope would twist, and you would twist with the rope. And then you would drop down out of the sky and come sailing back into the barn, into the hayloft. Then sail out again, not so far this time. And then again, not so far, high. And then out again, in again, and out again. And then you would jump off and you would let somebody else try it. Do you think that would be a fun place to swing in the barn? Up from the hayloft, jump off on the rope swing out and back, and swing out and back. That sounds like fun, right? Well, mothers, though, for miles and miles around, worried about that Zuckerman swing. They feared that some child would fall off. But no child ever did. Children almost always hang on to things tighter than their parents think that they will. Avery put the frog in his pocket and climbed into the hayloft. The last time I swang in this swing, I almost crashed into a barn swallow, which is a bird. Yeah, he yelled. Take the frog out, ordered Fern. Hey, look at that big spider, he said. It's tremendous. Leave it alone, commanded Fern. You've got a frog. Isn't that enough? That's a fine spider, said Avery, and I'm going to capture it. Who do you think he's talking about? Charlotte. He took over the cover off the candy box and he picked up a stick. I'm going to knock that old spider into this box, he said. And Wilbur's heart almost stopped when he saw what was going on. This might be the end of Charlotte if that boy succeeded in catching her. You stop it, Avery, cried out Fern. But Avery put one leg over the fence of the pig pen. He was just about to raise that stick up to Charlotte when he lost his balance. He swayed and toppled, and he landed on the edge of Wilbur's trough. Do you remember what the trough was? The feeding tray. The trough tipped up, and then it came down with a slap. Well, do you know what was under that trough? The goose egg, remember? That goose egg was right underneath. Who had put it there? Templeton the rat. There was a dull explosion, and the egg broke. And then a horrible smell. Fern screamed, Avery jumped to his feet, and the air filled with the most terrible gases and smells from the rotten egg. Templeton, who'd been resting in his home, scuttled away into the barn. Good night, screamed Avery. Good night. What a stink. Ooh, let's get out of here, he said. Fern was crying by now. Why do you think she was crying? She thought Charlotte was going to get hurt. She held her nose. She ran toward the house, and Avery ran after her, holding his nose. Charlotte felt greatly relieved to see him go. It had been a narrow escape. What do you think she meant by a narrow escape? She barely got out, right? That was almost a bad thing. Avery could have gotten her. Well, later on that morning, the animals came up from the pasture, the sheep, the lambs, the gander, the goose, and all 7 goslings. There were many complaints about that awful smell, and Wilbur had to tell the story over and over again of how the arable boy had tried to capture Charlotte, and how the smell of that broken egg drove him away just in time. It was the rotten goose egg that saved Charlotte's life, Wilbur would say. Well, the goose was very proud of her share in the adventure. The goose said, I am delighted that egg never hatched, she gabbled. Templeton, of course, was miserable over the loss of his beloved egg. He could not resist boasting, though. When you boast, what do? When you boast, you tell others how great you are. It pays to save things, he said in his surly voice. A rat never knows when something is going to come in handy. I never throw anything away. Well, said one of the lambs, this whole business is all well and good for Charlotte, but what about the rest of us? This smell is unbearable. Who wants to live in a barn that's perfumed with a rotten egg? Don't worry. You'll get used to it, said Templeton. He sat up and he pulled wisely at his long whiskers, then crept away to pay a visit to the dump. Do you know what a dump is? A place where people throw trash and things they don't want anymore. Perfect place for who? A rat like Templeton. When Lurvy showed up at lunchtime carrying a pail of food for Wilbur, he stopped short a few paces from the pig pen. He sniffed the air and he made a face. What in thunder, he said. Setting the pail down, he picked up the stick that Avery had dropped and pried the trough up. Rats, he said. Phew, I might have known that a rat would make a nest under this trough. How I hate a rat, said Lurvy. And Lurvy dragged Wilbur's trough across the yard and kicked some dirt into the rat's nest, burying the broken egg and all of Templeton's other possessions. And then he picked up the pail. Wilbur stood in the trough, drooling with hunger. Lurvy poured, and the slops ran creamily down around the pig's eyes and ears. Wilbur just grunted. He gulped. He sucked, and he sucked, and he gulped, making swishing and swooshing noises, anxious to get everything eaten at once. It was a delicious meal. Skim milk, wheat middlings, leftover pancakes, half a donut, the rind of a summer squash, a fish tail, 2 pieces of stale toast, a third of a ginger snap, 1 orange peel, several noodles from noodle soup, the scum of a cup of cocoa, an ancient jelly roll, a strip of paper from the lining of a garbage pail, and a spoonful of raspberry jello. Wilbur ate heartily. He planned to leave half a noodle and a few drops of milk for Templeton. And then he remembered that the rat had been useful in saving Charlotte's life, and that Charlotte was trying to save his life. So he left a whole noodle instead of a half one. And now that the broken egg was buried, the air cleared and the barn smelled good again. The afternoon passed and evening came. Shadows lengthened. The cool and kindly breath of evening entered through the doors and windows. Astride her web, Charlotte sat moodily eating a horsefly and thinking about the future. After a while, she bestirred herself. That means she got up from her web. She descended into the center of the web. Okay, the word descended means to come down. Ascended would be to come up. She descended to the center of the web, and there she began to cut some of her lines. She worked slowly but steadily while the other creatures drowsed. Okay, they were sleepy. None of the others, not even the goose, noticed that she was at work. Deep in his soft bed, Wilbur snoozed. Over in their favorite corner, the goslings whistled a night song. Charlotte tore quite a section out of her web, leaving an open space in the middle. And then she started weaving something to take the place of the threads she had removed. When Templeton got back from the dump around midnight, the spider was still at work. Do you have an idea what Charlotte might be doing to save Wilbur's life? What is she working at, do you think? Okay, she's working at her web. The next chapter, we'll get to see the plan of what Charlotte has going on. Now, think of this chapter we just read, chapter 10. What was Charlotte's narrow escape? What almost happened to Charlotte? She almost got captured, remember, by Avery, Fern's brother. Do you know what else saved Charlotte? The smell of the what? The rotten egg. So really, what animal kind of saved Charlotte? Templeton the rat. And who is trying to save Wilbur? Charlotte the spider. Very good. We learned a few words in this chapter today. Let me go over those with you again. We learned sedentary in the last chapter. In this chapter, we learned this new word. Can you read it? Gullible. What did Charlotte say that gullible means? Easy to fool. Easy to fool. Very good. Okay. Did the story mention something about an animal that was gullible? Okay. It said maybe humans were more gullible than some of the animals. Okay. Very good. All right. So today, we've been talking about some of these vocabulary words. Okay. What is the place where Wilbur's food is kept? Okay. The trough. Very good. We looked at a new one today. This word was loving very much. We learned this word also. Loving very much. Okay. Adoring. See that one? Adoring. Very good. Okay. So today, make sure you have done, this is the last day of the week. So you have to have done quiz 1, chapter 1 through 3. And then the other one was on, I believe, 6 through 8. Make sure you have done all the quizzes that are there in the Google Classroom, and you will have some more assignments later that have to do with Charlotte's Web, okay? All right, you just got your last skateboard today. How about this one? Does that remind you of the 3 eyes on the monster there? Okay, the good dog. Okay, well, thank you for a good lesson. If you have any questions, remember to let Miss Gaylord know. Most of you are doing a super job on getting everything turned in. Don't forget, you can always go back and turn things in. If you didn't, it's better than getting a 0. Just go back and get it done to make sure that you have everything turned in, okay? I hope that you and your family are doing well. Don't forget to join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock in our Zoom chat room. Okay. I've been seeing some of your faces. I'm missing a few people. I haven't seen a few people yet. Haven't seen Charisma in Zoom. I'm looking for Krishana and Kalik. I'm looking for a few others that I haven't seen in the Zoom room. Most of you I've seen at least once. Okay. I'd like to see also Dante. I'd like to see Dante in the Zoom room. Okay. All right. Well, I hope to see you tomorrow. And if not, you have a great weekend and keep up the good work. Okay. Miss Gaylord misses you and look for something from me soon. Okay. See you next time. Bye bye.